All right, session number 2 this morning. This is a lesson learned on migrating biggest Maximo client user base to MAS. I'm actually excited about this.
Cool.
I was just reading the abstract about it, and it sounds exciting. So, first let me introduce Denis De Paula, Senior Managing Consultant at IBM. 18 years experience, deep technical skills, deep history in Maximo, oil and gas, and health and safety. It's probably quite a natural extension of the conversation that was just happening in this room. Denis, will you tell us?
He may have implemented HSC for Warranty initially as well, right?
He may have.
I did,
we'll
yeah.
never know, because Scott has left the room, right? Yeah. So this presentation is all about Woolworths. Obviously, everyone knows about Woolies. I don't think I need to introduce what they do. GMAS, largest user base on Maximo. I'm sure it will be a riveting presentation, so I'm not going to get in the way of that.
Thanks, Rene. Thank you. Okay, morning everyone. So, Denis De Paula. Rene already introduced me, but yeah, Maximo architect in this project for Woolies, and they upgrade from 76 to MAS. So I put Daniel's face here. So Daniel Isle, he's not here as you can see. So he is the Woolworths, I would say, product lead for Maximo and the DevOps lead. And he was supposed to co-present this with me, but he had a very good reason not to, because he went on paternity leave. So, but the good thing is, before he did that, just before, we managed to get a few videos from him and insights from him. And the idea was more so I'll talk through that, but also have the perspective from Woolies on the journey. So from the client, the lessons learned, the challenges, and then of course, if I have any questions, I'll answer to the best of my knowledge. From the business side and from the technical side, of course, I can do that. So a little bit about Woolworths Group. Rene said it doesn't need introduction, but I know a few people might be coming from overseas, so just a quick summary. So Woolworths Group is one of the largest retail groups in Australia and New Zealand. They have like over 1,500 supermarkets, retail outlets, distribution centers, and support offices, and more than 200,000 people between staff and contractors. So a few key points here just to illustrate a little bit of the project and how they use Maximo. You probably have seen 400,000 and then 200,000, and there is a big difference, right? So 200,000 is the number of workforce that they have, so number of active users, but 400,000 was the number of users that we had to migrate, including the inactive ones. And the more users, the more challenging it is, especially when you are migrating because of the new way Maximo manages the user authentication in MAS. Another one, the way they use Maximo, just a quick overview. So when we started this, they had Maximo 7.6, they have Maximo Mobile, and they have Maximo Anywhere. So they're using mobile for the technician, so the work execution, and Anywhere for the service request. And there was a reason why they didn't move the service request to mobile, but just this adds a little bit of complexity on the whole migration. And the way they use Maximo, they use for asset and work management in general. So they have the stores and all the supermarkets, the big Ws, for example. And let's say as a store manager, there is a fridge that is leaking or a chicken cooker that's not working. So they go and scan the barcode, raise a service request, gets converted into a work order, and then they send it to the technicians, who can be Woolworths staff or contractors. There is a video where Daniel explains that as well, so just touch on that, but you're going to hear more from him later. Okay, project overview. So we did this project in 2 phases. So we started with design phase to look at the infra aspect and the sizing and how to assess what was required to migrate the environments that they had from 7.6 and upgrade it to MAS. Of course, as part of that, we have the Arrow. So they were hosting that in Azure. So you have to configure that Red Hat OpenShift. Again, Daniel's going to talk about that because I have seen lots of clients, they get a little bit fearful of the unknown because this is new to us. We don't know what that implies, but we had to do that. We had to make sure that we were, again, migrating all the DevOps pipelines because they have automations. They do releases on a monthly basis. They have all the projects running parallel, so we had to make sure we could ensure that they could keep doing that in mass. We had to do the retrofit from Maximo Mobile. We had to keep 7.6 running with Anywhere, because Anywhere doesn't work in mass, and have to do a synchronization and integration between 7.6 and mass. The reason for that is service request is raised in Anywhere, goes to 7.6, gets sent to mass, and then goes to the operators on mobile, right? And the plan is that they will decommission that, but there was still, at the end of the project, there was still something that was going. And another challenge, they have 10 environments, so they do releases in parallel, so they keep a set of like dev environments and test environments. So we had to migrate and upgrade each one of them because they have different configurations, so we couldn't just do one and apply across. We had that user base that was large that we kind of found out as we were going through. And the key aspect, without being too technical, this SCIM integration that probably presented as one of the biggest challenges. And SCIM stands for, I believe, if I'm wrong, System for Cross-Domain Identity Management, which is single sign-on at the end of the day. So you just want to make sure the users are logging in with the user ID and password. But the difference is in MAS 9, so we moved it to MAS 9, SCIM had a 2.0 version, which allows the management of the security and user groups from your identity provider. And Woolworths wanted to do that because then you can control that across all your systems, and you don't need to do in Maximo or in the other systems that they have. And that was a key challenge for us, first of all, because it's new, and you know when you adopt something that is new, you find things. And also the largest user base as well, because you need to make sure that you are synchronizing that from your IDP as you go live. Of course, after that, you don't have, you might have people being onboarded on a weekly basis, but the number is not going to be not as high, right? Cool. Then it comes to the video. So I'm probably going to be pausing a few of the videos and talk through, so I can add more on what Dan is saying, but we kind of, before he went on paternity leave, we decided let's do a quick interview and just go through the key points of the project, the technical challenges, the user adoption, because one of the concerns or challenges we see is clients saying, okay, but it's a lot of change management if I go from 7.6 to MAS. What does that mean? Keep in mind that this was a technical upgrade, so we didn't adopt any new features of the platform. But still you have to make sure that you are managing the user change. So let's start with a little bit more about the user base. So Dan is going to talk about, as I said, the mobile, Anywhere, the number of users, and how do they interact with the system.
We use Maximo Manage primarily. We also utilize Maximo Mobile, Surface Request for our stores, a branch of mobile we call Vendor Mobile for our service partners, and a few other things. And so our user base is pretty broad. We of course have our business, our back office users and teams across Australia and New Zealand. We have our Woolworths technician fleet who work across Australia and New Zealand as well in Maximo Mobile. We then have our very vast range of service partners who we enable through a combination of Vendor Mobile, which is sort of a flavored version of Maximo Mobile, as well as what we call Supervisor, a term coming from the old work center days, but effectively a watered down work order application in Manage, where administrators of larger service partners can manage their work in bulk, allocate, pull reports, and those sorts of things. So there's that piece alone is across more than 800, if not over 1,000 service partners. And then of course we have our store teams. So that's all Woolworths banners across Australia and New Zealand. And so that user base alone is upwards of 180 something thousand users. So all in all, we have over 200,000 active users across all components of Maximo.
Cool. On the second video, Dennis is going to talk a little bit about the technical challenges. On that one, I might pause a little bit just to add on top of what he's saying, but it's probably, I think, the longest one.
We started this journey, we had to contemplate how we would implement, where we would implement, what technologies we would leverage to get over the OpenShift hurdle. So we had a lot of conversations internally and with IBM around how we would approach this. You know, OpenShift as a platform is not, or was not at the time, a strategic platform for Woolworths. We were doing other things, and so I had to figure out how to implement that, albeit bespoke, because we are a self-hosted customer for both 7.6 where we came from and MAS where we are now. And so, you know, that was our first technical challenge. How do we do that? How do we bring a platform in? Who's going to manage it? How do we fund it? All of those sorts of things. And look, so that was a problem that we had braced for in excess of what it actually was once we'd been there and done it. It was actually fairly easy to implement, all things considered.
Well, on that one, I just would like to highlight that the key there is, and as I said, there was a little bit of unknown for them because OpenShift is new. That was not part of the strategic platform. And as we were talking through and discussing, they found out that it's not as easy as it seems once you get to know more about. So we had lots of meetings to explain how to set it up. So that was one of the key learnings as well, that yeah, it's different, it's a change, but the sooner we start embracing and finding out more, the better is the experience of upgrading. And the good thing is when we are facing some challenges, they knew and they were across because they kind of understood the platform. You may have to move a little bit.
That, albeit bespoke,
yep.
Because we are a self-hosted customer for both 7.6 where we came from and MAS where we are now. And so, you know, that was our first technical challenge. How do we do that? How do we bring a platform in? Who's going to manage it? How do we fund it? All of those sorts of things. And look, so that was a problem that we had braced for in excess of what it actually was once we'd been there and done it. It was actually fairly easy to implement, all things considered. It wasn't the mountain we thought it was at the start. It's fairly easy to run, costs a bit, but yeah, that definitely at the concept phase was the first technical challenge. We chose MAS 9 as our implementation version just after it had come out, mainly because we wanted to adopt gold standard single sign-on, which is SCIM based. And so that meant we had to go with version 9. And look, we knew that meant we would endure the bugs. We went in with our eyes open, and yeah, that was a challenge. So look, we, as an early adopter of SCIM in the Maximo product, we found all the bugs, especially those for high user counts and performance, extended attributes, using Entra as the source for the SCIM integration. So we had a whole series of product bugs that we worked out through that, effectively got direct product team involvement because, you know, it was an opportunity for them to learn and grow this piece as well. So through a series of fixes, we got that performing well and at a level where we could go live. So SCIM was definitely a headline challenge for us at the time. Now we're pretty stable, all things considered, and it is handling that level of user activity and fluctuation day to day without challenge. Maximo Mobile on version 9 was also an issue, so we found some critical defects during our initial merge and our initial testing. Look, we do use custom versions of Technician and Mobile for both our internal techs and vendor because we have our own Woolworthsified flavor, processes and functions across the app, probably a few more than I'd like. Those were, in my view, again, relating to the fact that we picked up a fresh version of MAS that hadn't been out for very long and probably leveraging a few functions that other early adopters hadn't been using or at least hadn't found the issues on yet. So we dealt with a bit of that. Some of the bigger issues actually related to geography, where, you know...
I'll just pause the video, given the time, but the key here about the SCIM is one of the benefits that we had is the access to the product team and get the fixes to be done as quick as possible, and the turnaround was very, very quick. So Maximo has different components. You have MAS Manage, which is where you do the work. You have mobile, as Dan mentioned, there were some challenges there as well. But for SCIM, because it sits on the suite, or mass core, whatever we call, we were getting fixes very, very quickly to make sure we could meet the project timelines and the migration. On the mobile, the same, like we had some issues with time zones, because they have people that work, they are based in New South Wales, or they might work in Queensland, and then you have the time zone difference, and it was causing some challenges. And again, we ended up fixing them before we went live. Maybe let's go to the next video, Ronnie, just on time. Let's play that one, because that one is quick, just about the user change and management.
Again, it was a case of preparing for the worst, but getting the best. Our business stakeholders were very apprehensive about the move to MAS in terms of how it would affect the as I explained earlier, the very vast user base and types of users across different components, and were bracing for change management overhead, teething issues, or heavy user feedback where things have changed and impacted ways of working that they may not even be aware of amongst certain users. So that there were a lot of conversations there. How do we prepare for it? How do we review it and determine what that journey is going to look like? The biggest influencer there was getting to play with MAS. So once the business got to see and have a play around in non-prod on the first drop of, or the first release of MAS functioning, the sentiment quickly changed, and you know, as users themselves, they immediately recognized the familiar interface, albeit refreshed. And apart from a couple of bits and pieces where a button had moved from the top left to the top right, things like that, they were able to just get on with it. And so that really helped settle the nerves around change management. We actually went from an initial position of having heavy user training content and pre-planned sessions, team by team, and drop-in sessions for issues and questions, all the way down to effectively a communication and a video with a contact in case there are any concerns or questions. The user base was quite comfortable from go live, apart from a couple of questions here and there, or those that didn't watch the video perhaps. Everyone was straight in and working. And the feedback has been positive on that. So, you know, the little refreshed UI elements and little optimizations have been well received by almost all of our users. As I said, familiarity was there on day one, so there wasn't that much to talk about really after the fact. Other feedback from the user base post upgrade, look, SSO was extremely welcome. We'd been running local auth all this time because 7.6 couldn't do dual IDP, and that prevented us from adopting SSO previously. So that has been great. And our technicians were quiet, which in our world is a good thing. So that's sort of the level of praise we can expect from a very, very busy team who are out and about doing what they do best. So yeah, look, they're the big ones.
We might not have time to play all the videos, but I can probably cover a little bit of the key lessons learned in the next slide. Ronnie, if you move to the next slide. So I think the key lessons learned, as you heard from the technical challenges, and I can talk a little bit about that, is prepare for the technical changes. So be aware that there will be differences from how Maximo 7.6 and MAS runs, and embrace the opportunity to adopt those changes, right, and learn them as quick as possible in the journey. And then, of course, you can uplift and modernize the DevOps and the monitoring capabilities, and then mentions that OpenShift allows you to monitor a few things that you cannot do in Maximo 7.6. Second one is, as any project technical upgrade, you need to plan that well, and especially in our case, because we had a large user base, we had to test and validate because of the cutover time to make sure we could make it to the go live, and they had a very hard date on the go live. We went live early in the year, this year, and as you heard just now, to engage the business users as early as possible, so they get to know again the interface changes, as Dan said, a button that changed or the login process that is different, because then you don't have the noise, which is something that you don't want to have, especially on a technical upgrade, right? So the user should be working the next day as they were before. So, cool. I'm open for any questions that you might have. I know you're just on time, but just in case there are any questions.
Did Woolworths Cyber Team let you put in a standard version of OpenShift, or did they need sort of changes to OpenShift?
No, it was a standard version of OpenShift. So one of the things that we didn't have time to play in the video that was a little bit different from the normal is the MongoDB. So MongoDB you need with MAS, which is the user authentication that you have, the database that sits. So they went for a PaaS instance, and that presented some challenge in performance for the synchronization. But then we got through that as well. That was the main thing, but yeah, we worked with all the Woolworths partners and made sure that the architecture was aligned to their guidelines, and that was all worked fine. And another key point is you might be wondering, okay, 200,000 users, how many app points do they have? A lot of those users, they are using Service Request, so they don't need an extremely large number of app points. So, and again, from 7.6 to MAS, nothing changed from the app points perspective, so it's all the same.
I want to thank Dennis for the session. Obviously, again, they're going to be around, grab him at morning tea. He knows everything about everything. So,
Thank
if
you.
you've got any questions, just tackle him. He's always happy to talk about it, I promise you. Yeah.
Cool, thanks, Renee. Thank you.
All right.
Cheers, thank you. Oh, yeah. I like so much that I'm talking again here.
Yeah.
See?
Did you bring it?